Dear viewers, GEM, or the Grand Egyptian Museum, is one of the largest museums around the world, and it contains more than 50,000 artifacts. That's in addition, of course, to being the sole displayer of King Tutankhamun's collection for the very first time to the public, and that includes more than 5,000 artifacts alone. With us now here is Dr. Mona Nouman, and she is an exhibition director at the Grand Egyptian Museum, GEM. Dr. Mona, thank you for joining us. A great pleasure having you with us.
Thank you so much. It's our pleasure, actually.
Thank you. So, Dr. Mona, first of all, how the visitor will have new and different experiences from other museums, you think?
Museum itself, in its size and also in the location, is very different. So the visitor will start from the beginning. Once he enters the museum, he will find everything is different from the other museums in Egypt. Also, when he goes to the exhibitions, he will find different elements for interpretations, different display cases, different way of lighting, and the visitor flow itself will be giving a different experience that will make him very interesting to know more about the collection. So we are trying to give a link between the past and the future and transfer the knowledge about our culture to the audience with his different knowledge and different ages and also different backgrounds. I think through the exhibition he will find the storyline which will give him some stories about the collection that will be very interesting to him to know the hidden and the mysterious ideas about the ancient Egyptian heritage. So through our topics and collection, we are trying to make the visitor feel entertained, not only educated. So it will not be like an education place only, but also to have some fun through the stories that we are giving to them.
I understand that today, Dr. Mona, and these months, we are having what is called a soft opening. So you are getting some visitors, right, for some events. Can you talk to us about that?
Okay, it's a little bit an experimental operation. So we are trying to introduce the building at the beginning with its different facilities to the visitors. The building is very huge and the operations among it is a complicated work actually. So we are trying to make sure that everything is doing well before we enter the full building with its all capacity for the opening soon, inshallah.
Okay, and Dr. Mona, you mentioned that GEM reflects the diversity of Egyptian history and culture. Could you talk to us about that diversity? It's not only about Tutankhamun, of
yes,
course.
Yes, that's true. The collection for the Grand Egyptian Museum is distributed among different galleries. So at the beginning, the visitor will start his visit from the outside area. As we can see in the background, we have the hanging obelisk, which is displayed in a different way. That way of exhibition is for a purpose actually to show the visitors the cartouche of King Ramses II, which is on the base of the obelisk. So it's hanged above the visitor and he can see the cartouche from underneath. And then when he enters the museum, he will find the Grand Hall, which contains Ramses II statue and Merim Betah column, and two statues from Greek and Ptolemaic king and queen. And also we have the 10 statues for King Snuserts I from the 12th dynasty. And then we have a different gallery. It goes vertically with the steps. It's called the Grand Staircase. So it have a very big space, like 6,000 square meters. It introduced the reality of King Egypt, of ancient Egypt, which introduced also different topics. The first story will give the visitor about the image of the king in ancient Egypt and how he was posed among the big statues and in his temples and so on. And the second story will be about the king and the gods and how the religions and traditions of the ancient Egyptians affected their production of art pieces. And then the third story will be about the temples and the architecture elements which the great kings built during the history of Egypt. And then the last story will introduce the journey to eternity, which reflects the belief of the ancient Egyptian in the other world and in the afterlife. And after you finish the grand stairs, you will face the big glass facade, which connects you here in the Grand Egyptian Museum with the plateau of the Giza Pyramid. And then you have two options to select between. The first one, you go to the right side to enter the Tutankhamun collection, and the second one is to go to the main galleries, which introduce the chronological objects from prehistory area dating to the Greek-Roman time. So we are having a variety in the collection and different stories and themes. Even for Tutankhamun collection, we are introduced it in a different way. We are talking about the history of the discovery and the story about it. And then we are talking about his lifestyle, how he lived in his palace, what he was wearing and what he was eating, and how was the life with his wife. And then his masterpieces like the chariots and the hunting boxes and the hunting tools. And then we move to the afterlife side, which introduced his funeral, his burials, and then also the afterlife journey and how he was giving supplementary to the tomb with objects and afterlife objects that can help him in his journey to the afterlife. And in this part, we connect the future and the current studies with the past history, because we are introducing some of the theories about the death of Tutankhamun and about his family tree also.
Beautiful, beautiful. So Dr. Mona, what technologies and modern exhibition techniques are you planning to use here at GEM?
We are trying to reach the high standards of high standard levels of the international standards to have the exhibition rich and very entertaining for the visitor. So we are trying to use different technologies like touch screens to introduce some data that cannot be extracted from the object itself or cannot be seen in the object during the visit. So we are trying to illustrate some elements that complete the story and complete the view to the visitor, and also give the visit itself a dynamic way, not to be static, so he can interact in both ways. Also, we have the virtual reality and the augmented reality in a different gallery, give a different experience that connects the history of the burials of ancient Egypt. And also we have in the main galleries stories about the society and about kingship and the beliefs. And among them, we have big screens and big areas, which is a transition area to introduce the story before the visitor go to this part and see it in animated illustrations and in movies in big screens. So we have different elements of technology to support our story and to complete the image to the visitor.
Wonderful. And Dr. Mona, you have something called integrated accessibility in the museum design. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, actually in the whole building we are trying to integrate all the facilities for the people with determinations. So we are integrating it also in the display itself. We have some replicas and models for the main objects and the important ones to introduce the story to the visitor with braille text for people with visual impaired. And also we are going to have also audio guides that will all give the whole idea and the whole stories for all people with different abilities.
Dr. Mona, how many buildings does GEM include?
Okay, the Grand Egyptian Museum is like a cultural hub, actually. Yeah. It's a complex, not only one building. So we have the main building for the museum, but we have other buildings like the conference center, the cinema. We have also the commercial area, which completes the journey of the visitor to give them entertainment and also help them to have the full day inside the museum, so they will not get bored and they will not feel tired. They have all the facilities to make them feel home, actually, to feel better and to entertain our experience.
Yeah, I mean, it is being called the biggest cultural city in the world,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
So how do you see that? I mean, in your words now, you gave us a glimpse of why it is the biggest cultural city in the world. But can you expand on that, especially when it comes to the location? Because you mentioned the location earlier. I mean, the beautiful location overlooking the pyramids, we can see it now.
Yes.
So
the location is very important actually, because the Giza, with its one wonder of the world, which is the Great Pyramid, is very famous to all the world, all over the world. So it's very important to link the pyramid with the museum. As you know, the construction itself and the design was based about the three pyramids in the front and was linked between them and the museum, and also the surrounding area having some preparations now to make the visit of the museum is a full visit for the whole site, not only the museum. And from the galleries and the main galleries of the museum, you can see the Giza Plateau very clearly. And we have a linked elements during the exhibition itself. Like in the Old Kingdom Gallery, we are introducing the family of the fourth dynasty, which contained the very famous pharaohs who built the Great Pyramids. So we have a very unique collection that link the museum with the Giza Plateau.
Dr. Mona Nouman, Exhibition Director at GEM, the Grand Egyptian Museum. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you for hosting
Thank
us.
you. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dear viewers, please stay with us. Nile Cruise. We'll be back here from the heart of GEM, the biggest cultural city in the world as it is being described, and behind us is that great obelisk. So please stay with us.